Hello, I'm Reverend Portia Cabot, pastor of Clare Memorial United Methodist Church, and a stroke ambassador with the Together to End Stroke of the American Heart Association. Thank you for joining us today for the love of you as we seek to continue our conversation around stroke prevention as well as what one can do after they have a stroke. I'm so happy today to have Kristen Pezant with us. She's a medical nutrition therapist from the Nebraska Medical Center, and so we are just so thankful to have you share with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, and so today we're going to have a discussion around strokes and good nutrition. We are always saying to watch what you eat, to make sure that you eat a healthy, well-balanced diet. And so, Kristen, we just want to see what are some of the myths around nutrition as it relates to people who have had strokes.
I think one of the most common myths is probably that there is something easy. There's kind of like a magic ticket, something that you can just do and right away fix your nutritional status and remove those risk factors such as high blood pressure and high cholesterol. But it really does just take effort and planning. You need to have a well-balanced diet planned out. There's not one thing that's going to make a sudden change. It takes time and patience and effort, discipline.
Okay, so what's a balanced diet, or what do you mean when you say good nutrition? If I was a patient that came in, what would you tell me?
There are a couple of diets out there that we do recommend, especially specific to stroke prevention or for people that have had strokes. The Mediterranean diet as well as the DASH diet. The DASH diet actually stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. They are very similar in that they are focused around fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and not a lot of red meat. You can have some red meat, but anywhere, depending on the diet, it recommends like once a week or maybe once a month. Focusing your meat choices to be more from poultry or fish. They're also high in nuts, legumes, using oils that are heart healthy, such as olive oil and canola oil. That's kind of the basis of those well-balanced diets.
And so is there an outline based on how much you should eat, how many times a day a person should eat? I mean, you know, to hear a diet, it's almost like I can't have something besides just red meat.
Right, and I'm glad that you brought that up. That's a very good point to make. So when I use the term diet, it is more just like an overall eating pattern. It's not a specific reducing, like doing a fad diet. We don't recommend that at all. It's more just your dietary pattern. Maybe that's a better way to state it. And that's going to be individualized. Different people have different needs. So we encourage definitely eating at least 3 times a day, whether that's 3 meals or 2 big meals and a smaller snack in between. Some people have different medical conditions where they need to eat more often, so smaller amounts more frequently throughout the day. Yeah, so, but I would just say it's not a good idea to only eat 1 big meal a day.
Okay, so that helps to understand what diet does in stroke prevention, and so we want to make sure that people are eating healthy but also properly.
Absolutely.
So what diets do you actually recommend? I guess you said the Mediterranean and the DASH.
Yes.
And I know the DASH is the low sodium.
Yes. And so those are more plant-based diets, and they tend to include more whole foods, so very little processed foods. And then, yes, to be centered around fruits, vegetables, whole grains. So right now it's really popular to just eliminate all carbohydrates and do a really high protein diet, but I think it's essential for people to know that that isn't the healthiest way to go. We get a lot of nutrients, important nutrients, from fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, which are all carbohydrates. So you're right, it's about watching the portion sizes, being mindful of that, but just really having a well-balanced diet.
Okay, and even for those that are in food deserts or don't really have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, that's kind of hard to do. But then even from childhood, most persons are not taught to eat those types of foods.
That is true, and we're coming up on the season where farmers markets are going to be up and running, and I found that those are the fruits and vegetables, the produce there is very reasonably priced.
Okay.
They also do take anybody that has food assistance programs, the SNAP, and so that would be one option, but also canned vegetables without added salt and also canned fruits are very good choices if they don't have added sugars. But frozen is probably ideal and much more affordable than the fresh. Plus they don't go bad, so you don't have to worry about throwing them out if you're not able to consume them before they go bad.
And that's so important. And I do also want to let the hearers know that at Clare Memorial at 54th and Ames, we have a community garden, and so we try to plant various things, and it is free and open to the public. It's just hard to try to maintain sometimes when we don't have persons that will go down and water and pull the weeds, but we try to make sure that in that part of town that we have some fruits and vegetables. Okay, so then also in the midst of all of that, we want to make sure that people know the causes of strokes, but then also high cholesterol and diabetes also play a role into strokes. Can you talk about how that correlates?
Absolutely. So having an abnormal lipid profile, which are your cholesterol levels and your triglyceride levels, do put you at increased risk for stroke. The best way through your diet to manage your cholesterol levels is to limit saturated fats. Saturated fats are only found in animal products, so that is a good way to think about it, to keep in mind what foods could potentially have saturated fat. So all of your meat, dairy, so that's why we recommend low-fat or non-fat dairy products, and then butters, fats, margarine, so using more of like an olive oil or canola oil. Those are actually monounsaturated fats, and not only do they not raise your bad cholesterol levels, they can help increase your good cholesterol levels. Because there is good cholesterol. The HDL is a good cholesterol. And so not all cholesterol is bad, but limiting those saturated fats will help bring down your total cholesterol level and your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol.
Okay, now, hearing all of that and recognizing that we like our food to have some taste or some seasoning, what seasonings can people add to offset some of that good fat or that fat gives us?
Right, and as well as, since we're recommending not adding salt at the table, and that's also something that enhances flavor and that a lot of people are used to. So there are a lot of herbs and seasonings. If you have not only at a community garden, but that's something that's very affordable for people to even grow at home, just in a small planter. But also there are a lot of pre-made seasonings out there. I don't know if I'm supposed to name drop, but Mrs. Dash is wonderful. They have, at least 25 different varieties, all sorts from.
So you can still get the flavor.
Absolutely.
You just have to go and look and
you just
see
have to go and look at it. And also make sure that when you're looking for those seasonings that they are salt-free seasonings.
Right. And I know Miss Dash, I like Miss Dash, and I like the spicy one.
Yes.
Just to give a little bit more flavor on her red pepper flakes, that kind of adds
and
flavor.
Just to also reinforce, it's not that fat is bad. So like olive oil has a wonderful taste, and it's a good fat to cook with, a good oil to cook with. Same with canola oil. So it's not that we need to eliminate fat, it's just choosing those healthier types of fat. And if you are going to use a butter or a margarine, using the ones that are in the soft tubs or the whipped. A good rule of thumb to keep in mind is that if a fat is solid at room temperature, it's going to be solid in your arteries.
That's a good point to look at.
Yes. So that gives you a good idea on how much of that fat is saturated, how much is hydrogenated oils, the bad fats we need to stay away from. And then once again, if you just can't get yourself to stop using it, just use a lot less.
A lot less. And that's very important that we learn how to use less. I had the opportunity on yesterday to cook a pot of collard greens, and my health ministry challenged the team not to put any meat in it. And so I found the or vegetarian collard greens, and it was really good.
Was it good?
Recipe told me to make sure that the onions were sauteed and then some garlic and put some red flake peppers in there and then vegetable broth. But then to taste it to make sure the taste, because that's how the greens are going to taste in the end product.
Absolutely.
And that was all that I put in. Everyone loved it.
it.
So you don't have to give up your collard greens.
No.
You can indeed have it without the salt pork or the fat that is in there and still eat healthy.
Yes,
and so that was really
absolutely.
good. So what are some of the other diets that people can participate in or utilize?
Yeah, I think I really just stand by the Mediterranean and the DASH diet. I think that if you don't even want to go, if that's a little overwhelming to think of just incorporating a whole new diet, some things to keep in mind is when you're lowering your sodium level is really, really important when you have high blood pressure, because we know that sodium, for a lot of different mechanisms, it causes your blood pressure to go even higher. But in addition to reducing your sodium, it's good to keep in mind that it's helpful to increase your potassium. So potassium is an electrolyte that is in a lot of fruits and vegetables, some dairy, but it reduces the effect of sodium. And it also, just in the impact that it has on the blood vessel walls, it also helps lower your blood pressure. But as with everything, if you do have any history of kidney disease or are on a diuretic that is potassium sparing, you want to check with your physician first. And because there's always such a thing as too much. Like, it's not like, just consume all the potassium that you want and your blood pressure is going to be really low. You have to always everything's about balance.
And so the diuretic is pulling the fluid off?
And there are diuretics that are potassium wasting, and so you need to eat more potassium, and then there are some that are potassium sparing, and so that is just something you want to discuss with your physician.
Okay. So what's the benefit of a keto diet?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the keto diet, especially for stroke prevention, because it's very high in fat. If you're truly following a ketogenic diet, it is about 90% fat. It also does not do away with processed foods or even consider sodium levels and a lot of those fats that they do, because if all you're eating is fat and meat, so a lot of it is meat based, you're going to get tired of that. So you're going to use a lot of, it promotes using anything from, bacon, cheese, burgers, sausage.
That we love.
Yeah, but they're so high in saturated fat. And so as far as the ketogenic diet, the keto diet can have a really negative impact on your blood cholesterol levels.
Okay. So now if I do the diet or follow the nutrition, should I stop taking some of my medication?
That's a great question, and absolutely not. And I should say, before you start any diet, it's always good to check in with your primary care physician. Just let them know what you're doing, especially if you have diabetes and you're taking any insulin. Because if you are reducing the amount of carbohydrate that you're eating, or you're changing from the refined sugars, which we recommend, eating less of those and eating more of the whole grains, it is going to have a positive impact. You're going to have lower blood glucose levels. But if you're taking insulin, your doctor needs to be making those adjustments. They need to be aware of that. So adjustments might need to be made, but definitely don't stop taking your medication. Follow up regularly with your physician, and they'll continue to monitor your blood pressure. They'll continue to monitor your blood glucose levels, your cholesterol levels, and then hopefully eventually you can reduce the amount of medication that you're taking. But you never want to stop without first
seeing the doctor.
Correct.
Okay, because we would hope that if you eat a good nutritious meal or diet and follow and exercise and take your medication, that hopefully, the thought is that my blood pressure is going to go down, my high cholesterol numbers are going to go down, my diabetes is going to be in check, or I might even just feel better, but we want to make sure that people stay in touch.
Absolutely, and you're right, that's our goal, and we see that happen a lot. I think when we're talking about diet, one thing we haven't touched on either is people that, because overweight and obesity is also a risk factor for stroke. With these diet modifications that we've talked about, like the Mediterranean, the DASH, just eating more plant-based, whole food diet, that naturally tends to just naturally contribute to weight loss without any significant effort or attention being placed on that. Just because when we're eating lower fat foods, when we're eating more healthy, when we're making healthier choices, we naturally see that people's calorie intake is less. And so that's an extra benefit as well, without having to necessarily put all your focus onto that.
You know, and when I hear that, the visual that came to mind, that people have different body frames. And so even though we say obese or overweight, they could just be big bone. That does not mean that their weight is totally over, according to the statistics that say this is the ideal weight per height.
You are right. And in saying that too, there are also people that might not be overweight or obese. They might be very thin, but they might have high cholesterol or high blood pressure. So you're right, that doesn't tell the whole story. We just know that is just one of the other risk factors that goes along with stroke. But that too would help to, have a discussion with your physician, or if you are seeing a dietitian or a nutrition therapist, they can help kind of determine what is best for each individual.
Right, and the most important thing is to have a discussion with your physician. I realize that some physicians are busy and they have appointments, but when you go in, it's important to take that time out and have a conversation with your physician. You're the best physician that you have because you live in your body each and every day. And don't leave the doctor's office feeling like you have not gotten all of your answers. So how would someone get in touch with a nutritionist?
Most of the nutrition therapists are physician referral based. There are some in the community that may not be part of a physician-based referral program, but you might have to pay more money to see them. And so I would inquire with your physician. They should have contacts, have somebody that they can refer you to. And they're more likely, I would probably think too, being just with the medical aspect of it. Like we're medical nutrition therapists, so that's what we specialize in.
And so you get a referral from your doctor to go and see. So the doctor looks at all of the risk factors that a person has and says, okay, we might need to change the diet. Because I find that a lot of doctors just want to prescribe medication, but don't work on helping to change a person's eating habits or lifestyle before they put them on medication. It's hard to get off medication.
I agree.
Once you have been prescribed.
Yes. And yes, I agree with you. So yeah, the person has to be their own advocate, just as you were saying. They have to come with their questions and really let the physician know that they are motivated to make some of these other changes, and recognizing that they need to stay on their medication while they make these changes. But for the long term, they are going to feel better, because medications all have side effects. So the more medications you take, the more side effects you're trying to deal with, and you just... And
it'll affect your, especially for high blood pressure, it affects your liver and different things. And so we want to make sure that you're advocating for yourself. I'm not saying don't pay attention to the doctor, but please advocate for yourself and for what is best for your body as you seek to make some changes. The weather is starting to change now. We're able to get outside a little bit more, able to begin to plant and to grow our own food. And so we have to begin to look at that. I appreciate you sharing with us the importance of a fruit and plant-based diet. And so once spring comes, we will be able to do just that. And you know what you've planted. And don't have to worry about the pesticides or other deterrents that are in the product that you grow yourself. And so I'm really concerned about that.
And that also kind of a side note, but as we were talking about the plant-based diets and the fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, that brings up another thought for me is when you are, that will naturally increase your fiber intake. Okay. And we do recommend getting anywhere from 20 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Okay. It's very important to increase your water intake as you're increasing your fiber intake. Otherwise, you might end up being constipated because those are healthy carbohydrates. They have so many wonderful nutrients for our body, but it is important. On average, just a general guideline, we would say to drink about eight ounce glasses of water a day.
Right, yeah. And that's so important. But then for someone who has irritable bowel disease or ulcerative colitis that has to reduce their fiber intake, what effect will that have on them?
Yes, so that's a really good point. And it's interesting, people that have irritable bowel, it's kind of a case-by-case basis. Some people do benefit from having more fiber, others don't. So that's something you need to work through with a physician. Ulcerative colitis is somewhat the same. If there is active disease, you're going to want to eliminate, or not eliminate, but really reduce your fiber. Right. However, if you're in remission or you're in between exacerbations or flares for your ulcerative colitis, it does help to have some of that good fiber because it helps with the good bacteria that we build in our bodies. Okay. So that's, once again, it kind of always goes back to talk with your physician with what's best for you, because it's case by case basis.
Okay. I mean, that's so important, and I just want to make sure that we're talking to our physicians, and if you feel that you need to see a nutritionist, to ask for a referral. If you've had a stroke, I understand that you see patients that are already in the hospital that are overcoming a stroke. And so we want to make sure that we're in tune, that we're taking care of ourselves, that we're eating properly, but that we're also getting the proper information that we need for our bodies. It's so important to love yourself, and you are the best and the first person to do just that. That's why we bring this show, For the Love of You, so that you can take better care of yourself, that we can help to prevent strokes in our lives and those that we love. And even if you have suffered a stroke, to get medical attention as soon as possible. Because you can overcome strokes. We can live with, we can overcome them. And so we're trying our best to get the word out. So thank you, Kristen, so much for coming and sharing the nutritional side of taking care of yourself.
Absolutely, it's been my pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for tuning in to For the Love of You. Continue to tune in. We will have various persons come in and share with us. We will have physicians as well as dietitians, exercise gurus, persons who have suffered from strokes, even family members that are learning how they can look down through the lines in their own life and even change their family's habits now to prevent and benefit from what we're sharing with you today. So thank you for tuning in. For the Love of You.